Picture this. Tucked away in gardens all over the planet are plants that deliver more protein, gram for gram, than a chicken breast. And the best part? Once you put them in the ground, they keep on feeding you season after season with barely any effort on your part. Hard to believe, I know. So today I'm walking you through 10 plants that beat meat on protein and once planted will feed you indefinitely. Keep watching because entry number 3 is something most backyard growers don't even realize exists, and it could completely change how you see your own garden. Welcome back to Lost Homestead Vault. Glad to have you here. For newcomers, this channel is dedicated to bringing back the plants the modern world left behind, the ones that once fed whole civilizations, nursed communities back to health, and carried families through the toughest times. We unearth forgotten knowledge and put it back into circulation. Before we get into it, go ahead and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss a single plant discovery. Now let's count down from 10 to the one that genuinely floored me when I first learned about it. Number 10, Moringa. The tree that practically insists you eat it. Anyone who's spent time around tropical gardeners has probably already heard Moringa hyped as a superfood or miracle tree, and honestly, it earns the title. The leaves are tender with an earthy edge, and they can be dried into a powder for smoothies, soups, or baked goods. Farmers throughout South Asia and Africa have relied on it for generations, and the rest of the world is only now catching on. What most people don't know, fresh moringa leaves carry roughly 9 grams of protein per 100 grams, and that number jumps to about 27 grams once dried, meaning the powdered form can match chicken for protein density. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization considers moringa one of the most nutrient-packed plants ever examined, noting it supplies all 9 essential amino acids, a complete protein, which is unusual for a plant. To grow it, choose full sun and loose, well-draining sandy soil. It can't tolerate soggy roots. Space trees, roughly 3 meters apart, though many growers plant them closer, and prune them into shrub form for easier harvesting. Water deeply but not often, especially once the tree is established. You can start picking leaves as early as 8 months after planting, and regular trimming just spurs more growth. Bonus, crushed moringa seeds can clarify murky water by making sediment clump and settle, a trick used by ancient communities long before modern filters existed. Would you keep a moringa tree pruned like a shrub in a small yard? Let me know in the comments. And if that surprised you, wait until you hear about number 9. Number 9, lentils, the humble pantry staple that deserves far more credit. Most people write lentils off as a backup plan for when the fridge is empty. But in traditional kitchens across India, Ethiopia, and the Middle East, they're the centerpiece, rich, hearty stews that have nourished billions across millennia. Here's what's often overlooked. Dried lentils pack about 26 grams of protein per 100 grams, outweighing beef gram for gram. Harvard's School of Public Health ranks lentils among the best plant protein sources around, and a 2021 study in the journal Nutrients linked regular lentil eating to better muscle retention in older adults. To grow them, stick to cool conditions, ideally 18 to 24 degrees C, in light, well-drained loam. Sow seeds about 2.5 centimeters deep and 15 centimeters apart directly in the ground. They need minimal watering once established and actually enrich the soil by fixing nitrogen. Harvest once the lower pods turn brown and rattle when shaken. Bonus tip, plant lentils in a spot you'll later use for nitrogen-hungry crops like corn or squash. They'll get a real head start. Have you ever grown lentils yourself or only bought them bagged? Tell me below, and number 8 might change how you look at your garden bed entirely. Number 8. Asparagus, a crop that keeps producing for 2 decades. There's something special about those green spears breaking through the soil each spring, ahead of nearly everything else. Chefs prize it, restaurants charge a premium for it, but here's the part people miss. Asparagus only has about 2.2 grams of protein per 100 grams, yet a single crown, planted once, will yield fresh spears every spring for up to 20 years with almost no upkeep. It also contains aspartic acid and glutathione, compounds tied to cell repair and detoxification. The Egyptians were growing it more than 2,000 years ago, and some Roman emperors reportedly paid steep prices to get it out of season. Plant crowns in early spring in deep, rich, well-draining soil with a pH of 6.5 to 7. Dig trenches about 30 centimeters deep, space crowns 45 centimeters apart, and fill the trench gradually as growth continues. Resist harvesting for the first 2 years. Letting the ferns mature builds the root system you'll rely on for decades. From year 3 on, cut or snap spears once they reach 18 to 20 cm. Bonus tip, after harvest season, let the ferns grow tall and feathery. They're channeling energy back into the roots for next year's crop. Would you wait 2 years for a harvest that then lasts 20? Let me know your patience level. And up next is a plant most Western gardeners overlook entirely, despite it being an Asian staple for centuries. Number 7. Edamame, young soybeans, and they're loaded. Think warm summer evening, a bowl of salted green pods, something cold to sip. That's the edamame experience. Simple and endlessly snackable. It's trendy in restaurants now, but it's been grown across East Asia for over 2,000 years. Fresh edamame delivers around 11 grams of protein per 100 grams, making it one of the highest protein vegetables you can eat, raw or lightly steamed. Unlike most plant proteins, it's complete, offering all essential amino acids in ratios close to meat. A 2020 World Health Organization report placed soy protein on par with animal protein nutritionally, high praise. Grow it in full sun with rich, compost-heavy soil. Sow seeds directly after the last frost, about 4 centimeters deep and 15 centimeters apart. It tolerates drought once established but likes steady moisture while pods fill. Harvest when pods are plump and green and beans visibly press against the shell, usually 75 to 90 days after planting. Bonus tip, steam whole pods and eat straight from the shell. The pod naturally flavors the beans inside, which is why restaurants serve them that way. Would you grow edamame as a homegrown snack or just buy it frozen? We're about halfway through, and number 6 is where this gets really interesting. Quick pause. If this is useful to you, a like helps this reach more gardeners, and I'd love to hear in the comments which of these plants you've actually grown. Onward. Number 6. Quinoa. Technically not a grain and a serious protein source. Quinoa went from obscure Andean crop to health food aisle regular almost overnight, prized for its light, nutty flavor in salads, bowls, and baked goods. What the trendy packaging leaves out, dried quinoa contains around 14 grams of protein per 100 grams and is one of the rare plant foods offering all 9 essential amino acids, a complete protein. NASA has even studied it as a potential food for long-term space missions because of its exceptional nutritional self-sufficiency. The Incas called it the mother of all grains, and it sustained their society at altitudes where little else would grow. Quinoa likes full sun and actually prefers poor, well-drained soil. Too much fertilizer causes it to bolt prematurely. Sow seeds thinly at about 1 centimeter deep, then thin seedlings to 30 centimeters apart. It handles cold and drought well once rooted. Harvest when seed heads dry out and seeds rub off easily, typically 90 to 120 days. Rinse seeds well before cooking to remove their naturally bitter saponin coating. Bonus tip, young quinoa leaves are edible too. Treat them like spinach early in the season while the seeds mature. Had you ever tried growing quinoa or assumed it was too exotic for a home garden? And number 5 is something that's been climbing fences and trellises for thousands of years, right under most people's noses. Number 5, winged beans, protein from every part of the plant. If you've never heard of winged beans, you're far from alone, which is exactly why this channel exists. In Southeast Asia, especially Papua New Guinea and the Philippines, they're nicknamed supermarket on a stalk because the pods, leaves, flowers, and roots are all edible. The standout fact, dried winged bean seeds contain 29 to 39 grams of protein per 100 grams, rivaling soybeans and outdoing most meats. A 1975 National Academy of Sciences report called winged beans one of the most promising crops on Earth nutritionally, yet Western agriculture largely ignored it. 50 years on, most people in Europe and North America have never seen one. Grow them in hot, humid climates with full sun and a trellis or fence to climb. Plant seeds about 3 centimeters deep after the last frost and water consistently. The vines grow fast once going. Start picking young pods when tender, around 60 to 90 days, and let some mature fully for seed saving. Bonus tip, the tuberous roots taste like a sweet, nutty potato. Boil or roast them as a bonus harvest. Would you grow a plant whose leaves, flowers, pods, and roots are all edible? Hard to pass up. And number 4 traces back to ancient warriors. Number 4, hemp seeds, one of the most nutritionally complete foods around. Hemp seeds have a warm, nutty taste that works in salads, smoothies, or pressed oil, and they're regaining popularity in health-conscious circles, though their use goes back over 10,000 years. Ancient Chinese texts named hemp one of the five sacred grains. What's less known, hemp seeds contain about 31 grams of protein per 100 grams and offer an omega-3 to omega-6 ratio that researchers at the University of Manitoba described as nearly ideal for human health. Ancient Scythian warriors are said to have eaten hemp seeds to fuel long campaigns, and Viking burial sites in Scandinavia have turned up hemp seeds stored alongside weapons and tools. It's easy to grow in most temperate climates, full sun, deep well-draining soil, and minimal upkeep once established. Plant directly in spring after the last frost, about 1 centimeter deep, spaced generously for seed production. It can reach 2 meters in a single season. Harvest seed heads once fully ripe and dry, then thresh to separate the seeds. Bonus tip: hemp's deep taproot loosens compacted soil, making it a great rotational crop that benefits whatever follows it. Would you grow hemp as a food crop, neighborhood opinions aside? And number three is the one I promised at the start, the one most gardeners have never heard of. Number three, Tepary beans, an ancient desert protein that thrived where almost nothing else could. Picture a bean tough enough to produce a full harvest on less water than nearly any other crop on Earth. That's the Tepary bean, a small, dense, richly flavored legume cultivated by indigenous peoples of the Sonoran Desert, modern Arizona and Mexico, for at least 5,000 years. It comes in white, brown, speckled, and black varieties, each with an earthy depth beyond ordinary beans. Dried Tepary beans hold up to 23 grams of protein per 100 grams, and have a lower glycemic index than most legumes, useful for blood sugar management. University of Arizona researchers found that their distinctive protein structure may offer protection against type 2 diabetes, yet outside heritage seed and indigenous communities, almost nobody grows them. Plant in full sun and very well drained, even poor, soil, they evolved in desert conditions and struggle in rich or waterlogged ground. Sow directly in warm weather, about 3 centimeters deep and 10 centimeters apart, and avoid overwatering. They mature quickly, often in 60-80 days. Harvest once pods dry out and turn papery on the vine. Bonus tip: save seeds from your strongest plants each season. Tepary beans adapt fast to local conditions, so each generation grows better suited to your garden. Had you heard of Tepary beans before now? And the final two entries are ones that will stick with you. Number two, tree collards, a perennial green that never stops producing. Tree collards look almost otherworldly, tall, sprawling, purple-tinged plants that can live for decades, sometimes reaching small tree height. Some specimens in California are over 40 years old and still being harvested. Their leaves contain roughly 4 grams of protein per 100 grams, but because the plant produces year-round in mild climates, its total protein yield over a decade far outpaces most annual crops. Portuguese settlers brought them to California from the Azores, where they'd been grown for generations. Ecological gardener Alan Chadwick helped revive them in the U.S. during the 1970s, and seed-saving communities have kept them going since. They prefer full sun to partial shade and rich, moist, well-draining soil. Grow them from rooted cuttings rather than seed, since they rarely produce viable seed. Root cuttings in water or moist soil. Give each plant about a meter of space and water deeply during dry spells. Harvest outer leaves regularly to encourage fresh growth from the center. Bonus tip: tree collards actually taste better after a light frost, which converts some starches to sugar. Would you grow something that could feed your family for 40 years from one cutting? And now, number one, the plant that inspired this whole channel. Number one, Chaya, the Mayan spinach, and one of the most protein-dense leaves on the planet. Picture a large leafy shrub that grows almost like a weed in warm climates, needs very little from you, and packs remarkable nutrition, a primary food source for the ancient Maya for centuries. Also called tree spinach, it remains one of the most underrated food plants in existence. Fresh chaya leaves carry about 5 to 7 grams of protein per 100 grams, but what really stands out is their density of iron, calcium, and vitamin C, often exceeding spinach, kale, or even broccoli. A study in the journal Plant Foods for Human Nutrition found cooked chaya compares favorably to standard vegetables across nearly every nutrient measured. It stayed obscure mainly because it was largely confined to Mesoamerica and the Caribbean, and industrial agriculture had little interest in a plant that couldn't be patented. Important note, chaya must be cooked before eating, since raw leaves contain compounds that break down safely with heat. Always boil or saute for at least 5 minutes. Grow it in full sun with well-draining, fertile soil. It propagates easily from stem cuttings and becomes a productive shrub within months. Harvest outer leaves regularly, and the plant keeps producing. Bonus tip, chaya grows so vigorously in warm climates that a single cutting shared around a neighborhood can supply an entire community, a true gift plant. Had you heard of chaya before today? If not, you're now part of a small group of gardeners in the know. Are you going to track down a cutting? Quick recap of the 10 plants that out-protein meat and, once planted, keep feeding you. Moringa, which dries into a protein-rich powder. Lentils, which feed you and your soil. Asparagus, which can produce for 20 years from one planting. Edamame, a complete protein you can snack on fresh. Quinoa, a complete amino acid grain once studied by NASA. Winged beans, with protein from every part of the plant. Hemp seeds, an ancient food with an ideal fatty acid balance. Tepary beans, a desert survivor good for blood sugar. Tree collards, which can produce for 40 years. And chaya, a forgotten Mayan superfood. Together, these 10 plants make a simple point. Food security doesn't have to depend on expensive meat or industrial supply chains. With the right choices, your own backyard can become a genuine source of lasting nourishment. What keeps striking me is that every one of these plants survived because someone cared enough to save a seed, share a cutting, or pass the knowledge along. One of the most generous things a person can do. If this helped you discover even one new plant worth growing, it was worth making. If you haven't subscribed, consider it. Every subscriber helps this knowledge reach more people who need it. And if you know someone working toward growing more of their own food, pass this along. It might be just the nudge they need. So tell me, which plant on this list surprised you most? Thanks for watching. There's more abundance out there than we tend to remember, and a lot of it is already waiting in the soil. See you in the next one.